We're going to recreate the Commonwealth and our empire, and we're going to take you back again. Well, you've got a choice: Clinton, Trump, or Theresa May. It's up to you. How about Canada? We got any Canadians amongst us? Yeah, whoa. Anybody from Saskatchewan? Anybody heard of Saskatchewan? That's where my family's from. That's why I always ask. They're from Saskatoon. How about Australia? We got any Australians? Yeah, good day, good day, good day. And welcome home. Have we got any posh Australians amongst us? Kiwis? Ooh, that hurts. Let's move into Europe then. Français? Yeah, bonjour. Comment ça va? C'est bon? Serbia. Yeah. I knew. Espanol? No Spanish? Italiano? Yeah, buongiorno. Deutschland? No German. Largest? Yeah. Portugal? Yeah, of course. Yeah. And the largest cheer of the day? England! It never is. Anybody from my hometown of Leicester? For that, I'm carrying on with the story. Where? I could go on forever, call all the countries out of the world, we ain't got time. Behind me, folks, we have one of the world's most infamous gates. This is Traitors Gate, with our American cousins amongst us. Its original name is the Watergate. Yep, we had it first, but not so many leaks as you can see. But built on the orders of King Edward I has required a safer entrance into the tower. Rather than using the twisted narrow streets of London, King Edward decided to use the River Thames as his highway, but to do that he needed a water entrance to the tower. So in 1270 he had this gateway built behind me. Above it he built his medieval palace, which is still there to this day. So its original name is the Watergate. How does it get its name Traitors Gate? Well, this happened during the time of the Tudors, for the large amount of traitors entered the tower for these gates behind me. No less than 3 Queens of England have entered through these gates under the sentence of death after being found guilty of high treason. Queen Anne Boleyn, second wife of King Henry VIII, his 5th bride and queen, Catherine Howard, and a young 16-year-old girl, the Lady Jane Grey, the young crowned but rightful Queen of England of only 9 days. Those 3 ladies are still here to this present day. They've never left after arriving through these gates behind me. All 3 were held a prisoner here. Anne Boleyn had her trial in here. I think there she is. The ghost of Anne Boleyn is passing behind you, folks. Look. Ooh. All 3 of those ladies were taken up to Tower Green, where they were executed. All 3 lie buried in our little chapel. I'll show you where when we get in there. Behind you we have another famous building, the Bloody Tower, or as Shakespeare refers to it, the Tower of Blood. It gets its name because of murder. A lot of murders have taken place in that small tower, and there's none more famous than the murder of the 2 boy princes, Edward V and his younger brother Richard, the Duke of York, aged 12 and 9 respectively. Those boys were brought here in the year 1483 under the protection of their uncle, Richard, the Duke of Gloucester, who became Richard III of England. Now, it's very important to know those boys were here for protection. They were not here as prisoners. And as such, all day long, they've been seen riding their horses, running around the battlements, climbing trees, annoying the soldiers and everything else that young boys get up to, whatever that may be. But one day, these boys disappeared, never to be seen alive again. We believe they were murdered, but we don't know that for a fact. The only story we can go on is Shakespeare's play, Richard III, which he wrote some 70 years after their disappearance. But in that play, he says, Richard III orders that the boys be got rid of, and it said they were smothered to death in their bed just behind that window on the top of the tower there. We also know, he says, they were bundled down the stairs and hidden under a pile of stones. He then says the following day an unknown priest recovers the bodies and secretly buries them somewhere in the tower grounds. Now that's where Shakespeare finishes his play. But during the reign of King Charles II in 1664, some steps on the south side of the White Tower collapsed, and workmen were very busy repairing the steps. They came across a buried wooden box. Now they got very excited. They thought they found the legendary hidden treasure that's supposed to be buried somewhere in here. So you can imagine their excitement finding a buried wooden box. Very quickly, they dug it up, they broke it open, they looked inside. What did they find? Not gold, but the remains of 2 small children. Experts were summoned. They examined the remains, declared they could be the missing princes. So King Charles II ordered a casket be made for them. And when it was complete, the remains were placed inside that casket. It was sealed up and taken from here across London to Westminster Abbey, where it still remains to this day in a place called Innocents' Corner. And it's called Innocents' Corner because that is where we believe the 2 innocent boys now lie. Folks, I highly recommend the Abbey to you. If you get the opportunity, take that opportunity. It's a wonderful place. For over 1,000 years, all our coronations have taken place in that building. All our ancient kings and queens are also buried in there. And if you want to find Innocents' Corner, find the tomb of Queen Elizabeth I. There you'll also find Innocents' Corner.